Whoa. How did I get here? Huh. I would have never guessed that all these superpowers I had would allow me to breathe in space. Wow. Wait. What is that? Jesus!
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, you're Galactus. You eat entire planets. Whoa! Wait, are you here to eat LumberJillville?
Worse, I will eat the entire planet Earth unless you do as I say.
Okay, so before we get to that, I have a burning question that's just been on my mind. It's been in the back of my mind, okay? So, you eat planets, right? What do your poops look like? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the digestive course of action when you eat something like that.
That is enough out of you. Listen to me closely, or your world will perish.
Sorry, I just had to ask. But Mayor Aaron saving the planet, that sounds like exactly what I need to win my next mayoral campaign. What do I need to do?
Stop pretending to have superpowers. You are a disgrace to us all, and having a mortal human like you claiming to have false powers is preposterous.
Oh, I ought to take my visor off and blast ya.
Enough. Do you want your planet to suffer due to your lies?
Alright, fine. But if I ever do get powers, I'm coming right back here and I'm taking you down. Oh. It was a dream. I'm never taking melatonin again. Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Now, as LJV's Marvel's Women's Weekend comes to a close, I wanted to finish it with a really fun video that I've wanted to do for a while. Now, in today's video, it's kind of got a couple different segments, right? I'm going to be doing a top 5 countdown of my favorite women's wrestling figures that were released in Marvel DC inspired gear. But before we get to that, I am going to do a wish list because there are so many women's wrestlers that have worn superhero inspired attire on TV, in matches, whatnot, that we have not gotten in figure form that I want to see. So we're going to start off with that. But first off, I just want to tell y'all thank you. Now, I know this past weekend was a little different. It was a little different than what I usually do in LumberJillville. I will always review women's wrestling figures. That is the foundation of my passion, of what this channel was built on. But I wanted to do some bonus content, some bonus reviews, and that's why I reviewed some really cool women's Marvel Legends figures this past weekend. Now, the views were not exactly a lot, right? But that's one of those things that you kind of get from time to time. I had fun doing it. I'm glad that I did. And I hope any of y'all out there that watch those reviews, I hope you enjoyed them and had fun. But either way, you are going to have fun with today's video because we are back with women's wrestling figures. And this is a big one. So before we get to my top 5 countdown of my favorite women's wrestling figures and Marvel and DC inspired gear, let's head on over to my wish list. What women's wrestling figures I want to see released in superhero gear that was worn. Let's start off with AEW Jazzwares and maybe some figures that they could make in the future. This first look is a must-have for me, not just because Thunder Rosa is one of my favorite wrestlers, but because she's special to me. She appeared in LumberJillville all on her own. All I had to do is ask. But yeah, Thunder Rosa as Wolverine would be amazing. AEW Jazzwares, please, 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 please get on this ASAP. Alright, now we'll get into a couple AEW Jazzwares figures that they didn't make and they can't make now. Mostly because Jade Cargill is currently in WWE, but she had this really iconic look where she came out dressed as She-Hulk. I absolutely love this look. Now, it's hard to tell, but she did have like a greenish type paint on her skin. So yeah, I think Jade has had, and you'll see in this video, she has a lot of Marvel and DC inspired gears. In this She-Hulk look, I wish that AEW and Jazzwares would have given us this, but as it stands, it might be a little too late. So another look that we never got in figure form that I wanted so bad was when she dressed up as Storm. She had a Storm inspired attire, and it was near perfect. I mean, it was a beautiful looking attire. One of her more iconic looks. There are a lot of AEW Upper Deck cards that came out that had her in this attire, so I really wish Jazzwares would have made this, but unfortunately they won't be able to. However, there is a bit of a redemption arc with this Storm look in Jade Cargill as we get to next. So here it is, Jade Cargill once again in Storm-inspired gear, this time in an all-white look, quite the contrast from her black attire. And yes, this isn't WWE, this was at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. So yes, technically Mattel and WWE could be working on this figure, and I hope they are, because this attire is beautiful, it's amazing, it really empowers the women who have so many restrictions and limitations over in Saudi, and this is Jade coming out saying, okay, I have to be covered up, watch me shine, watch me glow, watch me come out with some amazing Storm-inspired gear. I mean, this would be awesome in the Mattel WWE Elite line. I would love this look. Now, this is one of my favorite Jade Cargill attires. It's one that I feel like got overlooked. I didn't see a whole lot of people talking about it online when she wore it. But this is Jade in Deadpool-inspired gear. Now, it's when she's the tag champion with Bianca. And Bianca also had inspired type gear for Deadpool, but this look is amazing. I love the red and the black. I love that she has a little belt around her waist. I just think this is such a cool look and one that I would love to see in figure form. I absolutely love this. I love Deadpool and I love Jade Cargill. So yes, Mattel, please, please, please give us this. And here's another attire that I felt like wasn't talked about enough. It's Charlotte Flair in Thanos-inspired gear. I love the purple base color. There's a lot of gold entwined. And if you look at the hood of her robe, you can actually see the Infinity Stones. The Infinity Stones are entwined in her robe. Oh my goodness, this would be an amazing Elite or Ultimate Edition. Here's the thing, if they would release this figure, I would want this in Elite or Ultimate Edition so that we get the robe. We need the robe to complete this Thanos look, but how amazing is this? I just absolutely love this look. Through the years, Alexa Bliss has had a lot of inspired attires, okay? We are just going to be covering some of the DC and Marvel ones. So this first one is the Riddler inspired. Now, it might be a little hard to tell because the shade of green is a little different. The purple is a little different than what we're used to seeing in the comic books and the cartoons and the movies. But yes, it is Riddler inspired gear. You can even see the little question marks on her bottoms. I think this is really, really cool, but I feel like her inspired attires get much better, as we'll see next. So this is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Alexa Bliss inspired gear by Marvel or DC. It is Iron Man. It is Tony Stark Iron Man. And I think she did an excellent job of taking that Iron Man design and making it fit into her unique attire. I love this. Now, this was worn quite a bit ago, but there's always hope that Mattel will go back in time and release an attire from the past. I want to see this in the Elite line so bad. I just love the red and the gold and how that really does go with her Raw Women's Championship at the time. I just think this whole look with the title belt, with the Iron Man inspired gear, just looks beautiful. I really love this. So this one is a little bit more subtle. Like, you really had to look closely at this attire to see that it is based on Supergirl. As we can see, we got the blue in the red, and we even have the Superman-shaped logo behind the Alexa Bliss logo there in her chest. And I just think this looks great. I really love it. Now, the reason I use an image of the TV show Supergirl is the muted red and the darker blue in her attire just reminds me of what Alexa Bliss had in her wrestling gear. So yeah, I think this is a cool look. I really love this. I definitely like how she jumps between Marvel and DC in her inspired attires. Bella twins! Alright, Nikki and Brie Bella as Batman and Robin. This is such a cool look, but I will say, the problem with this look is it looks like they literally went to like a Party City and got a female Batman and Robin costume. Like, we have the Batman logo, we have the Robin R, so I feel like Mattel would have a tough time jumping over the hurdle and releasing these figures as they look in this image. A lot of the attires that we've seen in this video so far were inspired by Marvel or DC, but the attires were kind of made to their own, to the female figure, the female wrestler's attire as it is. So this one would be a little bit harder for them to make, but I just wanted to show this because this is kind of a fun look that Nikki and Brie went with. And as we all know, Nikki Bella is heavily involved in WWE currently, so I don't think we'll see these figures released just because how spot on they are to Batman and Robin and the whole trademark deal, but either way, cool thing to see. Alright, so let's get into Wonder Woman. There's been a lot of Wonder Woman attires that have been worn in the past, you know. Obviously, there's the Sasha Banks figure in the Wonder Woman attire, but here we go. We got Trish Stratus in very iconic Wonder Woman gear. I absolutely love how spot on it is to Wonder Woman. I mean, she even has a little cape. This would be so cool to see in figure form. I really love this look. Now, speaking of the Wonder Woman look, let's get on to the next current superstar. Alright, so Chelsea Green Wonder Woman needs to be made now. It needs to be made in Ultimate or Elite form to where we can get her skirt, her little train that she wears, because if you look at that compared to Wonder Woman's cape, it's very similar. We have red on one side, blue on the other. I think this attire is cool because it's in Chelsea's unique design, but it's obviously inspired by Wonder Woman. I mean, come on, our favorite U.S. Women's Champion of the past, unfortunately, Chelsea Green. I mean, this would be so cool. But the next attire of Chelsea's is a bit of a debatable one. So the reason this is a bit of a debate is because I never saw any post or anything saying, hey, Chelsea Green's wearing Captain America inspired attire. However, when I was doing research for this video, just trying to find some Marvel and DC inspired attires from female wrestlers, I came across this Chelsea, and this really does remind me of Captain America, mostly because the blue base color, but as we can see, she has a big white star in the center of her chest, just like Captain America did. If you look at the arm sleeve, it kind of reminds me of the stripes that are in the midsection of Captain America, so I honestly do believe that this is Captain America inspired attire. There's no confirmation here, but I really love this look. I really do. I think a lot of people talk about her Wonder Woman gear, but to me, this Captain America attire is very unique because we see a lot of Wonder Woman inspired gear. So yeah, I love this look. I would love to see this in the Mattel line. So I'm going to be honest, doing research for this video was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. Now, if I left out any superhero inspired attires that we haven't gotten in figure form, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments which one out of all those I just shown you want to see the most in figure form. Now, with that being said, let's transition and let's do my top 5 countdown of figures we actually got in superhero inspired gear. And let's start off with some honorable mentions. WWE Basic Series 115, Tegan Knox wearing Captain Marvel inspired gear. Now the cool thing about Tegan is most of her attire that she wore on TV was modeled after Captain Marvel, and I think that's so cool that we got a Tegan figure. This is Tegan's only figure at the time of this recording, but it's cool that she was released in this Captain Marvel inspired gear. Now maybe she'll come back to the company in the future, and that would be great because I'd love to see more of her attires that are based off of one of my favorite superheroes of them all, Captain Marvel. WWE Showdown 2-Pack Series 12, Charlotte Flair wearing Venom-inspired attire. Now, I think this went way over my head. When I reviewed this figure, this 2-pack years ago, I don't know if I mentioned that it was Venom-inspired attire. I didn't realize until I was doing research for this video, and I found the robe that she came out with. As you can see the images on the right here, she actually had a robe that was also Venom inspired, and as you can see we have the black symbiote, as you will, kind of going over into her yellow gear. So actually the way that this gear came out, the way that Mattel produced it, especially considering it's a main event or a basic style figure, I thought the execution here was pretty darn good. And honestly, I wish I would have realized earlier that this was Venom-inspired gear because I just think that's really, really cool. But yeah, unfortunately, we did not get a robe with this figure, and this would have been definitely a suitable figure for the Elite line because then we could have got that Venom-inspired robe. WWE Elite Series 100, Becky Lynch wearing Black Widow-inspired gear. Now, there's a couple reasons why this didn't make my top 5 countdown. Number one being this is one of Becky Lynch's worst figures as far as the likeness standpoint goes. The face scan, the face sculpt is pretty terrible in my opinion. Now another reason is I don't think there's ever any confirmation that this was Black Widow inspired gear, but when I look at this attire, I can't help but picture Black Widow in her all white gear with like the grayish silver accent. So yeah, that's just what this reminds me of. So I had to definitely mention it, but it doesn't make the countdown because it's not exactly a good figure. WWE Survivor Series Elite, Becky Lynch wearing Scarlet Witch inspired attire. This is such a cool look. Now, if you didn't know the basis of what this was inspired by, you might think, what a strange Becky figure. But look at the boots, look at the knee pads, look at the all red. I mean, this really is a very Marvel-esque attire, and I love that she wore it at a premium live event, and I love even more that we got it in figure form. Now I will say the attire that she actually wore was like a leather pleather type material, very shiny, and this is just kind of a dull red, right? I wish we would have got that metallic finish to it to make it really look shiny, make it look a lot more like the attire actually looked on TV. But either way, I thought it was really cool to have this figure released, and I think it's so cool that it was paying homage to the Scarlet Witch, which at the time that she wore this, WandaVision was popular. So yeah, I love this figure, definitely a cool one. Main Event Series 152, Liv Morgan wearing Catwoman inspired attire. Now argue if you will that this was meant to be the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman or the Halle Berry Catwoman, but I find a lot more similarities between that Halle Berry version and this attire that Liv wore. Now I honestly never thought we would get this attire in figure form when I first saw it. However, I was thrilled when it was released. I do wish this was released in an Elite form where we could get that mask, we could get the whip. I made a little custom here, but the actual figure, how we got it released, is what you're seeing right in front of me. So yeah, I think it's really cool. It's definitely unique. One of the most unique Liv figures to date. And I love that we actually got a Catwoman inspired Liv Morgan figure. Never thought this would happen, but yeah, definitely a cool Liv to add to my Liv shelf. WWE Basic Series 96, Sasha Banks in Wonder Woman inspired attire. Now there are a lot of women's wrestlers that wore Wonder Woman inspired attire, but this one is so important. It's so special because not just do we have a USA Wonder Woman inspired attire, but this look, this attire right here was worn during the very first ever all-women's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I think that's so cool to have a representation of such a monumental moment for the women, which, by the way, the very first entrant that night was Sasha wearing this exact attire. So I know that, you know, with my wish list and everything, we've seen a lot of women's wrestlers in Wonder Woman attire, but the fact that Sasha actually got a figure in the attire and it represented such a historic moment is the reason why it's in my top 3. I mean, I absolutely adore this figure. WWE Elite Series 83 Alexa Bliss wearing Harley Quinn inspired attire. I mean, look at her look. Look at this entire figure. Look at the pigtails and the bows. Look at that removable piece around her waist that has the pink and blue train skirt behind her. I mean, this shouts Harley Quinn. She even has a little smirk. I love that. Now, Alexa Bliss is no stranger to Marvel and DC inspired attires, but Harley Quinn is the one that she has experimented with a few times. Now, when I first saw this look on TV, I never thought we'd get a figure of it because I thought, okay, that looks way too much like Harley Quinn. But they did it, and we got it. Not only that, we got it in the Elite line, and it's a cool figure. Now, the reason this is number 2 is when anyone thinks of women's wrestling figures and Marvel or DC inspired attires, I bet you a large percentage think of this figure the most because it really does stand out, and I think anyone that sees this figure is immediately going to draw the comparisons between Harley Quinn and Alexa Bliss. And at number 1, we have WWE Elite Series 112 standard release Becky Lynch wearing Siren-inspired attire from the Marvel Universe. Now, this figure is so awesome. When I first saw images of this figure, I wasn't too familiar with Siren as far as the Marvel character, and I thought, oh my gosh, is this Jean Grey-inspired attire? Is this a Rogue-inspired attire? So, without a doubt, I knew that this had to be some type of comic book inspired attire, but when I did my research and I saw online that it was actually meant to represent Siren, I thought that was so cool. I thought it was really neat, and I mean, you just look at the color scheme of this figure itself. Not only is it one of the most unique Becky Lynch's, it's one of the most unique women's wrestling figures because you look at this attire, and even if you're not familiar with Siren the character, you know that this attire has to be somehow related to the Marvel or DC universe, and that's exactly what it is. On top of that, the Becky Lynch sculpt and scan is really cool, and I do like what they did with the hair here, kind of giving some brighter highlights in the front. So yeah, this is number 1 because when you see this figure on any collector's shelf, right away you're going to immediately draw the comparison between this figure and a superhero of the Marvel or DC universe. I love this Becky. And there you have it, my personal top 5 favorite women's wrestling figures in Marvel and DC inspired attires. Now let me know in the comments what your favorite one is, and also, just like my wish list, let me know what you want to see because honestly, there have been so many women's wrestlers that have worn superhero inspired attire. Now obviously, there are some notable ones like Nikki ASH, Mighty Molly, but they kind of did their own thing, right? It wasn't really inspired by any specific superhero. They did their own thing, and yeah, so that's why they weren't included in this video. Also, I know that Jade Cargill has worn like Chitara inspired gear from Thundercats, but I don't consider that superhero. It's not really Marvel or DC. It's more of an animated series, so that's why that wasn't in this video. But yeah, there have been so many that we've actually gotten, but so many more that I want to see. Now, with that being said, thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Make sure to hit subscribe to become an official resident of LJV and get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews and women's wrestling figure-related content. Now, this Thursday night's classic review, I have a very special DC-inspired women's figure to review. Thanks for watching, and have a great night, y'all.